Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody. This is Howard Fox, and welcome to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Melanie Rembrandt. Melanie is the CEO of Rembrandt Communications and founder of the Small Business PR Academy. Melanie is one of the country's top small business public relations experts. She is a content strategist and PR consultant with over 20 years of experience. She's an award-winning writer with hundreds of published works to her credit, and she's the author of the book Simple Publicity. Melanie has an excellent track record for helping entrepreneurs get the targeted media attention they need to boost awareness, credibility, and increase their sales fast. Melanie, welcome to the Success Insight podcast.
Thanks so much, Howard, and thanks for that nice introduction.
My pleasure. And I have to say, first of all, thank you for joining us on the podcast and gifting us a copy of your book. It's fascinating. And this whole idea of PR as an entrepreneur is one of overwhelm. And so I would love to hear, and I know our guests would like to hear, your story and tell us how we can make PR a little easier pill to swallow, I think. I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but it's got to be easier, I would hope.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of small business owners forget about public relations. They think about sales and marketing, but actually public relations can be a secret tool for small business owners. And basically all it is getting the right communications out to the right people at the right time so you get the results you want from it. And it has this picture of being this big thing. It's expensive. You need to be a big company to have it. Public relations, I'm here to talk about it, especially to small business owners, because it's important and it's cost effective and it can be the secret weapon you need to have that competitive edge.
So when a individual decides that they want to step away from the job, and as I like to share, I'm a recovering IT business consultant, and I decided I didn't want to be in hotel rooms for the rest of my life. And I went out on my own as a solo entrepreneur. And I'll have to admit, I never learned how to sell or market in school. Those weren't my areas of education. So jumping in as a small business entrepreneur, I had to learn how to sell, had to learn how to market. The idea of public relations never came even to the forefront of my radar. And so as a small business owner, how do they start? How do we, or you, educate them on what is PR and how to get started down this path?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of big myths out there about public relations. And a lot of people, first of all, they don't know what it is. And I started my company because small business owners really needed some help. And a lot of people came to me, they were being ripped off by big agencies or they didn't know what they're doing. First of all, as a small business owner, you need to realize that public relations is available. And I'd love to review some of the myths. And first of all, you don't need a lot of money. You can actually do your own public relations with the right training and just starting small. And you'd be amazed at what can happen, even if you don't have any money to start with a big agency.
And if you can kind of continue on this topic of the myths, what are some of these myths? I mean, is there you have the Melanie's top 10 list, top 5 list? What are those?
Well, my top 4. The first one is you don't need a lot of money. Second of all, there's a big myth that you have to hire a publicist. And actually, as a small business owner, you can do it yourself. And as long as you have the training and get some of the knowledge behind you, you can do your own public relations until you get larger and you can afford an agency to do that work for you. The third myth is that you hear that you can't get good press because you don't own a big business. And nothing could be farther from the truth, because as a small business owner, you're the one with the passion about your business, and you have the unique story to tell about, how you started, where you came from. And another thing is that you can move much faster than a large corporation or big organization. You can make decisions quickly and get back to the media right away. And you actually have a positive going for you as a small business owner as opposed to being a big business. Plus, if you're the one reaching out to the media as opposed to a communications manager or something like that, you're the one that's going to create the relationship with that media member. And then finally, you can control your messaging. As a big business, sometimes messaging can get out of hand, but you can control exactly what you say to the media if you're the one talking to them directly. And then finally, a lot of people think public relations automatically means press release. PR equals press release.
Right.
But that's not really the case. A press release is really just a tool to get the information out to the people you need. But if you really want to be in the media, that comes from actually talking to media members, providing your story, and giving them the information they need. So there's a lot of myths out there about PR, but it's completely open to small business owners, and I think they need to know that.
How do the small business owners begin this journey of taking on some of this PR responsibility themselves, or at least learning that, oh, wait a minute, I can do this, or I can plan and budget my time? Because like everything, there's a time commitment here. What do these business owners do? What is typically their first step, or perhaps what should be their first steps? They're on their own. They run a business, whether it's coaching, a brick and mortar flower shop, a massage studio, yoga studio. How should they get started?
Well, I think it's important to start as simply as possible. So there's some really simple things they can do. The first thing I always say to start locally so that they can get some practice in. So the first thing you're going to do is look for a local media venue. That can be a local newspaper, television show, radio program. And then you let's say it's a local newspaper. You look through it and see who the business editor is, or whatever your industry is, who follows what you talk about, what are your products and services, and that's basically their quote unquote beat. So then you find out who they are and you kind of read some of their articles. And then online, you should be able to find their contact information. They usually have an email. If not, there is a phone number to the newspaper. And then before you contact them, what you do is you think about what your expertise is and what unique value you have to provide. You have to remember, it's not about you. It's about the media venue and the value you can provide the people who watch, listen to, or read that particular media venue. So once you figure that out, all you do is you call up that media member and you introduce yourself and you say, "Hi, I'm Bob. I am the local plumber here, and I saw your stories and I wanted to introduce myself as an expert." And then you might have a story idea in mind too. Let's say winter's coming up. Well, people might be worried about their pipes freezing over. So you can, if you're a plumber, you might say, "Hey, I have some great tips to help your readers in the local community about how they can avoid having their pipes freeze up this winter." Well, then the reporter might just say, "Hey, Bob, it's nice to meet you. I can't do that story right now, but thanks for calling." Or something else could happen and you might get a story out of it right away from that particular call. Either way, you've introduced yourself to the reporter. That person knows who you are, and you can contact them in the future for future stories. And that's how you start. And basically, you just grow from there. And you want to practice and go over your talking points so you feel comfortable talking to the media. But you'd be surprised what can happen with one little phone call.
I find that really fascinating because it is so easy to do as long as we are comfortable or confident in our ability to walk out the door into the business to have that conversation or pick up the phone to have it. Do you recommend the phone approach over the email or even the walk into the newspaper's location? What are your thoughts there?
Well, you really have to think about the other person, and it kind of takes your nerves away as well. If you were that reporter, would you want somebody coming in and interrupting your day, a total stranger, to introduce themselves? So you have to think about that. And sometimes reporters will state online whether they like emails or not. I always say a phone call is nice because you can actually introduce yourself as a human being. And you have to remember, too, media members get hundreds of emails every day. So it's kind of a little secret to pick up the phone and actually call them to stand out from the crowd.
I love it.
And if you were going to introduce yourself to a friend, you'd probably want to talk to them via phone rather than email. And again, it just depends on the person you're trying to contact. So it takes away some of the nerves and anxiety about it if you really think about the value you're providing them. It's not about you. What can you do to help them? So that might help.
That's fantastic. If we could go back to the beginning of this process, so you've laid out the myths, you essentially walked us through the start simple, start local. I love it, and I'm thinking to myself as you're sharing this, okay, these are some things I could have been doing different, or I can start doing differently right now. I tend to focus a lot on social media, specifically LinkedIn. I go to specific networking events, but still very valuable what you've just shared. I am curious though, we still have the business owner who perhaps is not even aware of this yet. It's not on their radar that this is something I need to care about, I need to do. How do we, or how do you start that conversation, create that initial spark that, Mr. Business Owner, Ms. Business Owner, you need to start thinking about this, and here's what you can do?
Well, it might just start by you get all relaxed on a Sunday morning and open the local paper, and there's a feature story about your competitor. And then you're like, well, how did they get in this? And I'm not on this story. So it might just start there. But basically, it's just a knowledge out there about you need some credibility and awareness. And the one thing about public relations and getting in a media venue is you're having a third person talk about you. You can't get this with advertising or any other way. So if you're not aware of public relations, it's wise just to kind of look up a little bit more information. And it's one of the reasons I started my Small Business PR Academy, specifically for small business owners to get the information they need about public relations without spending a fortune on an agency. Because let's face it, when I started my small business, I had no money. I did everything with blood, sweat, and tears. And
I hear that.
You really don't have $3,000 to $4,000 plus a month lying around to start with a PR agency, which is what most of them cost. And so you do things yourself. So that is one of the reasons I'm trying to get the word out that, hey, small business owners, here's a little secret you can use. Start using Publicity, and you don't need a publicist. So it's more just being aware that it's out there, and it's usually in some sales and marketing articles out there, but it's kind of a little secret a lot of people don't use.
Okay. You mentioned the Small Business PR Academy, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about that and how you've rolled it out, and how do we get, again, the entrepreneurs, even like me, and I have to be honest, even on our podcast, I've had some phenomenal guests out there. And they all want to write books, and they've done it, and then it's wonderful books. We really haven't focused too much on PR yet. And I'm like, what? And so I'm thinking even some of my guests would love to have a program or even the book in hand to at least get them thinking about PR. So, but if you can share a little bit more about the Academy, I think our listeners would like to hear about it.
Sure. And if you have a book, media members are more likely going to want to speak to you. But basically, I started the Small Business PR Academy because so many small business owners were approaching me and they needed help, and they really couldn't afford the normal PR fees that I have and others have out there. So basically, the Small Business PR Academy teaches you or an intern or a team member or an associate how to do public relations for your company at a fraction of the cost of hiring an agency. And I've made it super simple for people to learn how to do their own public relations, the media training they need, what to write, who to approach and when, and what to say, what kind of story angles to come up with. I made it super simple so that they could do their own publicity. And, a lot of business owners wear a million different hats, so they can even hire an intern to take the program, learn how to do it, and start doing their own publicity. And then as they grow, they can move on and hire an agency or a consultant to do their PR for them. But it's a starting point to help entrepreneurs get the publicity they need.
I think this is wonderful. And I'm reminded of some of the programs that are out on the West Coast. We see them a lot out there, down in the Southern California, San Diego area. A lot of the mentors, the sales programs, the marketing programs, the create your best-selling book in a weekend program. And a lot of those are very, very nice. But they're intended to enroll you in some greater program. I guess they call them boot camps out there, but you go to a boot camp, you spend a weekend, and then there's pitches to enroll you into bigger programs. But it sounds like the PR Academy really is just a hands-on look. This is a way for a small business owner and or an intern or somebody on their team to take on this responsibility of the PR, learn all those skills of what to do, when to do it, how to do it, who to do it with. That sounds to me to be a little bit different than those typical boot camps and programs that you would enroll in.
Yes, a lot of those boot camps are expensive too. And I've created this to make it just super simple, super inexpensive. And also they provide help along the way with Q&A calls each month, specifically with me if they have questions. But I just think there's a missing link out there for entrepreneurs to get the help they need. It's kind of a catch-22. You need money to get a publicist and you need the publicity to make money. So this kind of gets rid of that catch-22 so you can start getting the publicity you need, grow your business. Super simple, and it's hands-on training. So you know what you get the knowledge you need either via audio, visual, workbooks, very simple.
Fantastic. Melanie, in addition to running the communications business, Rembrandt Communications, and this small business PR Academy, what are your other passions around your profession and what you do?
Well, I love to write. In addition to writing my books, hundreds of articles and blogs. My spare time, I love to scuba dive.
Oh, wow.
And I like to speak in front of other people, give them tips and valuable information. I basically like to help other people as much as I can. I mean, I've been through the ropes as a small business owner, and I started without any money and built my business on my own. And I can really relate to my fellow entrepreneurs. So I like to share that information whenever I can.
Fantastic. And we'll certainly help to spread that word through this podcast as well. And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your early morning. We're here in Chicago. You're out on the West Coast. And I didn't mean to disparage anybody that lives on Southern California and San Diego areas. I don't know where you live other than you're out West. If our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where should they go?
Well, my main site is RembrandtWrites.com. And I also have a podcast that's called Simplify Your Business, which gives short, quick tips for small business owners out there. So they can find information there and also at the smallbusinesspracademy.com.
Fantastic. And we will provide the links on our show notes to the website, Rembrandt Writes, to the podcast, Simplify Your Business. And we'll also provide you or our listeners with the link back to the Small Business PR Academy. Before we leave, Melanie, we have kind of a feature on our podcast. It's called Insight to Go. Is there besides your book, Simple Publicity, is there a book, a quote, somebody that they're an inspiration to you or something you saw that really you said a wow to that you could share with our audience?
Well, recently someone told me, get over yourself, because they told me to do more video. And like everyone out there, I spend a lot of time in front of the video camera, but I never liked the way I look. So I took that to heart and I just go for it. That has to do with writing, doing videos. I don't wait until it's perfect because no one really cares. No one cares what I look like. They care about the information I'm providing. So if you are worried about things being just perfect, I would say, hey, get over yourself and just move forward and start implementing.
I love that. And just sometimes just good enough or just do it. And at the end of the day, I think you're right. Nobody really cares. What they do care about is the how they feel from what you have to offer. And so you're right. Just do it. Just do it. So Melanie, thank you so much for joining us on the show again. Thank you and appreciate you sharing part of your morning with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on the program. And I really hope I was able to provide some helpful information to your listeners.
Oh, you provided lots of information. Trust me on this one. All right, everybody. We have just been chatting with Melanie Rembrandt from Rembrandt Communications, and she is the founder of the Small Business PR Academy. Really great information about how the small business owner, the entrepreneur, can overcome these myths about taking advantage of and understanding the importance of public relations. And one of the key takeaways is start local and start simple. You can visit Melanie on her website at rembrandtwrites.com. We'll provide links to that as well as to the Small Business PR Academy. And we'll also provide a link back to her podcast, Simplify Your Business. So as we say every episode, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight Podcast. Take care.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.